The time has come to visit a mutant who was found riding the waters of the land from down under. Slipstream, also known as Davis Cameron, was created by Chris Claremont and Salvador Larroca. He first appeared in the Extreme X-Men comic issue number 6. The Extreme X-Men, led by Storm, was created as a law enforcement team that dealt with mutant-related affairs. That is why Slipstream was fated to meet the team and have his reality turned upside down. Until then, Davis was like any other Australian surfer, but soon realized his interdimensional powers. In this marvelous video, let's dive into the turbulent origins of Slipstream, the mutant who conquered the waves. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Tragic backstory of Slipstream. Davis Cameron's story with the Extreme X-Men kindled along the coast of the Coral Sea, in a place known as the Surfer's Paradise. Davis and his sister Heather were the children of crime lord Miles Warbeck, also known as Viceroy. His children were oblivious to their father's true occupation, with Davis dedicating most of his time to becoming a skillful surfer, and Heather becoming one of Australia's best lifeguards. The Extreme X-Men team was investigating the Viceroy's death, as Bishop dove into how the crime lord was killed. Rogue investigated the prime suspect. Storm, accompanied by Thunderbird, kept an eye on his children in case the assassins came after them next. Davis was instantly captivated by Storm's beauty, but their tender moment was interrupted by the sirens going off. Heather realized in horror that a great white had been spotted near the shore. All swimmers except Davis fled to the land's safety. Storm rushed to his rescue, aided by Thunderbird, who shot a pulse of nuclear plasma aimed at the shark, dissipating the threat. Davis was still unconscious until Storm resuscitated him, using mild lightning bolts. Even upon waking up, it's clear to the readers that Davis has a thing for Storm. The silver-haired mutant even agreed to go out on a date with Davis, with Thunderbird and Heather tagging along with them. As Storm and Davis danced together, she commented on how good he was at dancing. Davis replied, claiming that he was better on the waves than some surfer god. At that moment, the group was ambushed by Tong assassins. The mutants grouped together and fought back, with Heather revealing her powers for the first time as her skin turned into metallic gold armor. A powerless Davis was forced to hide to avoid being hit in the crossfire, as he helplessly watched the others battle the assassins. After the tussle, Davis felt even more enamored by Storm. The Cameron siblings' true origins were revealed to them. It was also revealed that their father was killed through a cruel illusion cast by Lady Mastermind. Davis contemplated whether he had any mutant powers, since his sister's abilities had visibly manifested. He also questioned if he would inherit their father's mob, or would he be hunted by them instead. On their way to X-Men member Sage's safe house, Rogue was seemingly attacked by Lady Mastermind, who took control of the mutant's mind and forced her to try to kill the siblings. Heather was able to grow wings and save her neck, but Davis was nearly killed. Once again, he was forced to hide and watch his friends take down the threat. Marvelous story arc of Slipstream. Following this, the alien warlord Khan, who ruled across a myriad of dimensions, sent his lieutenant Shaitan to abduct Heather, or better known as Lifeguard, and Gambit. Davis was desperate for any powers he could use to save his sister from the tyrannical warlord. Sage of the X-Men revealed to him that he had latent mutant powers that could be activated using her own abilities. The only teammate who opposed this was Thunderbird, who asked David to look around him. He demanded who would voluntarily live the volatile life of a mutant, as once he chooses to activate his unknown powers, he could never turn back. Still, Davis let Sage activate the X gene, which was the dormant mutant genetic factor in him. Sage charged up his powers, after which David realized he could teleport between dimensions by riding warp waves. He experienced a sensation of speed like nothing he had ever felt before. It was a heady rush of raw and undistilled power that had been untouched in him for God knows how long. As Davis described it, the universe is strumming power chords, and he's right in front of the speakers. Riding the warp waves was a cakewalk for a professional surfer like Davis, who then took up the alias Slipstream. In an impressive display of his abilities, he teleported the team from Sydney to Madripoor in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, Shaitan abducted Gambit and Heather, and he planned to use them to open a portal that would allow Khan to enter this realm. Davis was ordered to stay back for this mission, since his lack of experience and training would make him more of a liability than a reinforcement. Regardless, Khan attacked Madripoor and tried to take the X-Men along with Slipstream as his prisoners. The alien warlord was enthralled by Storm and wished to make her his queen, which undoubtedly annoyed Davis. The Extreme X-Men launched into an all-out intergalactic war with Khan and his forces. The mutant heroes accompanied the refugees of Madripoor in the catacombs below the city. Davis was struck by the gravity of his new reality. He thought becoming a superhero would be cool and fun, but the truth proved otherwise. By then, Storm had been teleported away by Khan, and Heather had fled into space to fight the incoming forces. Slipstream, along with Rogue, were the few left to defend the falling city. Davis proved to be competent enough by summoning warp waves at the speed of light to avoid their enemies' relentless attacks. He even teleported right over Khan's ammunition stock on land and detonated it using microcharges, riding away on a wave in the nick of time. Slipstream then came face to face with the X-Men's mortal enemy, Vargas. The superhero surfer grabbed the villain and dragged him through warp waves in an attempt to knock him out. Slipstream had been doing well so far in the battle, but he got cocky. Vargas was a seasoned warrior. He managed to climb on top of Davis' surfboard, even while they flew at the speed of light. In the blink of an eye, Vargas stabbed Slipstream in the back. As Slipstream lay bleeding on the floor, he was found by Rogue, who momentarily tended to him and confirmed that he wasn't entirely ready for the way X-Men fought. After the long and arduous battle, Davis finally reunited with his sister. To his horror, he saw an extraterrestrial monster in place of Heather. It was revealed that their mother was an unknown Shi'ar woman, a race of humanoid aliens from the planet of Chandilar. When Heather flew into space, her ability to shapeshift triggered something buried deep inside her. Her Shi'ar heritage was brought forward as a representation of their mother, a fact that Davis could not wrap his head around. Davis stubbornly believed that his sister had been killed and replaced by this monstrous alien creature who stood before him. Even Nightcrawler stepped in to contest his claims, as he reassured him that the alien was truly his sister. Mutations were often idiosyncratic. Her transformation would not be something he would also undergo. But deep down, Davis knew that part of his genes had the possibility of bringing out his Shi'ar heritage. Davis quit the Extreme X-Men and fled the hospital, asking the others not to follow him. Lifeguard, still concerned for her brother in his unstable state, set out in search with the help of Thunderbird. It was never revealed whether they found him or not. Then M-Day transpired. Scarlet Witch's spell effectively left millions of mutants without their powers, and Davis was one of them. Given his attitude towards being a mutant so far, it's safe to say that he was relieved to get rid of them. S.H.I.E.L.D. had identified Davis' powers as part of Michael Pointer, aka the Collective's arsenal. The Collective was the Gestalt being formed from the energy mass created from the unrestricted powers of countless depowered mutants. Slipstream was still on the radar of SWORD, a space-based branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. that dealt with the extraterrestrial threats and sought to deport aliens and half-aliens back to where they really came from. However, it's said that Slipstream got his powers back either through the drug Mothervine or by participating in the ancient repowering ritual on Krakoa, known as the Crucible. In a few of the Uncanny X-Men comic series, the story follows the X-Men versus X-Man and his gang, who are the Horsemen of Salvation. In the moments of calm before yet another raging storm, Jean Grey telepathically got in touch with all the former X-Men, allies of the X-Men, and previous students. She knew the X-Men needed all the backup they could gather. Slipstream, amongst many others, rushed in to help the X-Men fight. After this, Slipstream and Lifeguard, among several other mutants, were invited to come live in the mutant nation of Krakoa. He even helped defend the island when it was attacked by swarms of genetically engineered beasts, which Mikhail Rasputin sent to retrieve Professor Xavier's Cerebro Sword. Davis was amongst the audience who witnessed the unfair detentions carried out by Hank McCoy, who planned to detain all mutants of Russian descent, which included the likes of Colossus. That was the last time we saw Slipstream the Surfer. Slipstream's abilities and powers explained. Now that we know of Slipstream's origins, the major roles he played in the X-Men timeline, and how his powers manifested, let's explore how they really work in depth. Davis gained the ability to form quantum portals on a whim. This allowed him to create a funnel through transspatial energy, which refers to energy that isn't bound by physical space. The funnel created with transspatial energy would engulf him and anyone else traveling with him, and allow them to teleport great lengths between any two locations on Earth. We saw this in the instance when Davis teleported the X-Men from Sydney to Madripoor in a matter of seconds. The warp wave created made the use of superstrings to keep the two locations connected. Slipstream's increased awareness of displacement energy signatures allowed him to trace the origins of his teleportation effects from leftover energies. Once he detected these signatures, he would hop on a warp wave and teleport precisely to that location. Slipstream would surf the warp waves using a short metal surfboard. Riding warp waves came second nature to him, as he could even teleport other people. Albeit this required sustained concentration, it was easily doable. As the years went by, Slipstream became more efficient with his abilities, which were greatly improved by being honed like any other skill. Mind-blowing appearance of Slipstream in other forms of media. Slipstream may seem like a mutant with forgettable powers in his main reality, but his alternate selves from other realities are a whole different story. In the reality named The End, Slipstream was part of the Hounds, as he worked side by side with Multiple Man and Siren. The Hounds worked under the Slavers. The Inn Slipstream possessed more advanced powers than his Earth 616 counterpart. The Hound Slipstream could ride warp waves across pockets of intergalactic space. The space wave riding surfer was working under the slavers for free. It was eventually revealed that Slipstream was under the mental control of Cassandra Nova. In another reality known as the Battle World, Slipstream and Lifeguard were both part of the elite mutant force that functioned under the Horsemen of Salvation. Sinister brought them in because he believed that mutant siblings who worked together posed as the prime example of ideal genetic material. The Battle World existed in a domain as another counterpart of the Age of Apocalypse. Slipstream's future in the X-Men franchise. While he's still young, inexperienced, and naive, many believe that Slipstream is a criminally underrated character who holds so much potential that it deserves to be explored further. What could be the possible future of Slipstream in the X-Men franchise? He could fit in and utilize his honed abilities to serve a greater good in the Fall of X storyline. Since the House of X, mutants were thriving on Krakoa till a series of unforgettable betrayals sent them scattering across the globe, alone and desolate in their mutanthood. In the Fall of X, the group of young vigilantes known as the Children of Atom fought the insidious organization Orchis with everything they had. Orchis has only one goal, which is to wipe out every single mutant and their entire genealogy from the face of this planet. Slipstream could be a valuable force in this fight, since his teleportation powers come in handy, and he also possesses the incentive to protect Krakoa. We already discussed how Slipstream's full potential was unlocked by his telepathic control seized by Cassandra Nova in another reality. We also know for a fact that additional mutant abilities often reveal or manifest themselves in times of great duress. Keeping in mind Davis' complicated relationship with his existence as a mutant, the threat of mutants going completely extinct is still great enough to unlock stronger powers in him. Imagine a highly powered Davis on Earth 616 with the abilities of instant intergalactic travel. To flee from the relentless assaults of Orchis, Slipstream could help his fellow mutants and teleport them to the safe houses of their Shi'ar allies. Assuming that he has also made peace with his heritage, Davis could bring hordes of Shi'ar forces to fight against Orchis, for the alien race is known to be highly militant and skilled clans of warriors. Marvelous verdict! Here we come to an end of Slipstream's origins. He can also be considered to be a mutant who deserved more character development than he was graced with. It's just wasted potential for Davis to appear in a few issues of the Extreme X-Men before fading into the background. With the powers of teleportation, let alone intergalactic teleportation, come so many possibilities. We can only imagine a future for Slipstream in which he grasped the full extent of his powers and used them for a greater cause. He could become a space-surfing galactic warrior. He could take a break from Earth altogether and visit his mother's homeland to get in touch with some parts of his roots. Whatever the outcome may be, we expect to see more of the chilled-out mutant surfer god. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!